Okay, so I've been watching a lot of tutorial videos about how to implement a Supabase user authentication into a website or application. And a lot of videos that I watch on YouTube, even though they are targeted towards beginner, I gotta say the videos are a bit too technical for people that never code before. And that is quite unfortunate because there is a new wave of audience that actually wanna try AI code editor like Cursor or Windsurf that they never code before, and they just want to build an MVP, or they just want to have some fun or building a web or application. And when it comes to implementing the user authentication, this is actually a bit tricky, and unfortunately a lot of tutorial videos on YouTube just don't do the justice for people that are completely new to this kind of technology. In this video, I will try my best to explain to you on how you can actually implement the user authentication into your project. This is going to be a simple and straightforward video. I'm going to just focus on the user login and the registration, which basically will just involve email and password. And I know that some of you might be want to try Google authentication, but let's try something that is less complicated like an email and password, because once you understand this, then implementing Google authentication is going to be a lot easier. And also for this video, we are not going to write a single line of code. We are just prompting the AI until it gets everything right. And don't worry, I actually have prepared all the prompts that will be needed to actually implement the user authentication feature, so you can follow along. And the scope of this video will be very narrow. We are going to just talk about the user authentication. We're not going to be dealing with table, database, encryption, etc. We'll just focus on the email and password user registration implementation into our project. So without further ado, let's get into the tutorial. For this tutorial, I will try to build a simple web application where the visitor can register an account using email and password, and then once they log in and verify the email, they can see the content that otherwise wouldn't be possible for people that are just visiting the website without signing in. So this is going to be a very simple website, and I'm not going to involve any other tools or framework out there that will make things difficult to understand for newcomers. So to get started, first of course you have to install an AI code editor. The one that I'm going to be using is from Codium. This is called Windsurf, and this code editor allows you to build pretty much any website or application that you could think of by just simple prompting. And also we have another option like Cursor. If you are already using Cursor, then you can use Cursor as well. And recently Microsoft actually launched GitHub Copilot for free, so if you want to use GitHub Copilot, then you can definitely use it in VS Code. But I personally recommend to either using Windsurf or Cursor, because these two, when it comes to the AI features, they are just a lot better than competitors. So I'm going to open my Windsurf code editor, and I'm going to click File, click Open Folder, and I will select the folder where I'm going to store all the codes. So this is the directory. I'm going to click select folder, and yeah, so this is the interface of Windsurf. If I open the cascade window, this is going to be where I can enter the prompt. And by the way, I recommend to open the Explorer menu so you can see all the files in this project. For this project, I will try to create a simple duck photo website. So basically, the visitor of this website can register an account using email and password, and once they log in, they will see this picture of a duck in their dashboard. I actually have prepared this picture. This is the photo in the folder, and this is the folder where all the codes will be created. I actually recommend you to just follow along, just create a new project like this one, because it will help you understand how Supabase authentication actually going to work. So anyway, I'm going to start prompting the AI, and we are going to start building the web application. So I have prepared the prompt, and I will just copy and then paste the prompt right here. This is the prompt. I will read and explain why I'm using this prompt. So on the point number 1, I want to create a simple test website called Duck Photo, where users can create an account and then log in to see the content. Use only HTML and CSS. Again, I'm not going to use any framework or library or some dependencies. We just want to keep things simple. That's why I'm just using HTML and CSS. There will be some JavaScript files used later, but for now, HTML and CSS will do. So on the point number 2, create a simple homepage that describes the website and encourages visitors to sign up to see the duck photo. And on the point number 3, create a dashboard page that shows a duck photo. And this is the name of the file, Duck.JPG. This is the file. And the point number 4, both homepage and dashboard pages will have the same styling. Of course, we want to make sure that the user interface will be consistent across pages. And on the point number 5, let's do it slowly. Build those 2 pages first, other pages and authentication logic will be added later. So notice that I didn't say anything overly technical in this prompt because we are going to implement all those JavaScript files and authentication logic later. So for now, we're just building the form, we're just building the interface of the website itself. And I think the last prompt is very important. If you do not include this, there is a possibility that the AI may adding the authentication logic right at the beginning, which is fine, I guess, but I think it is better to just do it slowly so we can understand on how to actually implement something like this, and it will actually reduce the chance of error produced by AI. If you are asking too much at the beginning, AI might produce low quality code that has a lot of problems, so we don't want to have that. And that's why we just want to narrow the scope to just building the user interface, like the skeleton of the app. And when you're done with the prompting, you can select the model. In this case, I'm going to be using Cloud 3.5 Sonnet, which is I think the best model, and enable the write mode so the AI can actually write the code for us. And when you're done, hit the enter key or just press the send button, and we just need to wait until the AI is creating all the necessary codes for this project. Okay, it is creating the index.html, which is going to be the home page of the website. It also has created the dashboard page, which will be the dashboard where the user can see the duck photo. And now it is creating the CSS file, which is going to be responsible for the look of the website, the style of the website itself. And I think so far everything looks good, and I'm going to click the accept all button to accept all the changes. Okay, now I'm going to preview the website, and we are going to use a live server extension. You can go to extensions and you can search for live server and hit enter. Okay, now there are plenty of live server extensions that you could install on the Windsurf code editor, but the one that I'm using is live server, also known as Vibe server. It is free, and if you want to get it, just click the install button, and after that we can go back to the Explorer and we are going to preview the index.html and also the dashboard.html pages. I'm going to, let's say, right click on the index.html, click open with Vibe server, and it will launch a browser that actually will show the website. So this is the website, this is the home page, and I think it's pretty simple and I think it's good enough. The benefit of using this extension is that it will automatically refresh the page when you are selecting the file that you want to preview. So if I select the dashboard, it will refresh the dashboard, and yeah, it's pretty instant, so we don't have to manually go back and forth right clicking to preview the changes. And this is very helpful when you are editing the code and you want to see the changes in real time, then this extension will definitely helpful. Overall, everything looked great, and we got this duck photo on the dashboard, so we can move on to the next step, which is we are going to build the authentication pages. So right now there is no sign in or sign up pages, and we have to create that. And we are going to use this prompt that I'm going to just copy and paste again. And by the way, I'm going to provide all the prompts in the video description, so be sure to check it out. So the next prompt is create sign up, sign in, check email confirmation, and reset password pages. So actually the 3 most important pages are sign up, sign in, and reset password pages. The check email confirmation is not strictly required, but it is actually a good thing to add just to show a page where there is a message that lets the user know that they have to check the email to click the link and then confirm their account. And after that, on the second point, make sure the design and styling is consistent across pages. Again, we just want to make sure that the design is not going to be different than the home page and the dashboard. And number 3, don't add authentication logic yet. We will do it later. This is just a safeguard that we don't want the AI to just build the authentication logic from the beginning. We just want to do it slowly so we can understand how this thing actually works. And I think I want to modify the prompt a little bit. I just want to make sure that follow the index.html and dashboard.html HTML styling. So my hope here is it's going to use the same CSS file from this file. So it's not going to create yet another CSS file. It is actually not really a problem, but I just want to make this tutorial as simple as possible. So anyway, let's click the enter key and we're going to see what's going to happen. By the way, I think it is worth mentioning that in a real project, you're probably not going to see something like this. Like right now, I'm putting everything in the root folder, but when you're working on a real project, then you want to make sure that all the files are as organized as possible. So you might want to create a folder for specific pages. Like you can create a folder that will store all the photos or the media content. You want to create a folder that will store all the authentication logic, etc. So this is really not a great practice right now. I'm just storing everything in the root folder, but then again, this is for just a test demonstration. Anyway, now we have the confirm email, reset password, sign in and sign up pages. So now I'm going to preview it. Let's move the window a little bit here and let's click confirm email. This is the page, this is the reset password, this is the sign in, and this is the sign up page. Okay, I think it's pretty good. I haven't tested all the features, I haven't clicked all the links, but that's not the problem at the moment. Right now, we can actually just move on to the next step, which is we are going to install the Supabase client library into our project. So you can think the Supabase client library as an ingredient. It's like a module that will contain all the function for the user authentication. And this will be required for every project that is going to be involving Supabase. Now, there are a lot of features in the module, but of course we are going to just use the user authentication feature. So this is the prompt that we are going to use. I'm going to copy and just paste the prompt right here. Okay, so this is the prompt that I'm going to use to start implementing the authentication feature using Supabase. So the point number one is install Supabase client library via npm or attach Supabase client library via CDN link. So this point is very important. You basically have to choose which one or which method that you want to implement for your project. There is an npm method and there is also a CDN method. Regarding on what method that you should be using, it really depends. So I think this is the part that I need to explain a bit more. Basically, if you select the npm method, the AI may ask you to run a terminal to download a module that contains all the necessary components to actually get the Supabase feature, which in this case the authentication feature, and you will actually see there will be a new folder added to your project if you are using the npm method. So it will make your project files a little bit bigger because now it will store extra files from the Supabase library, while the CDN method is basically instead of downloading all the modules, we're just going to link the module from other servers on the internet to our project. In my opinion, this is the simplest implementation, and if you want to make your repository look cleaner, then you can use this method. However, you have to choose on your own, and regarding on which method is the best, there is no answer. It really depends on your project. But generally speaking, if you are building an application where the user needs to download the app, then you can use the npm method because basically it will package the module within your app. So every time the user launches the app, the features, the Supabase library will already be there. While the CDN method is generally useful for building a web application. It's like a website that people can visit, and every time the user visits the website, this module will be called from the server and the Supabase library will be loaded. Again, it depends on the project that you are trying to build. But for me, given that I'm trying to build a web application, I'm going to select the second method. So I will delete this section of the prompt, leaving only the CDN option. And on the second prompt, this is actually still related to the first prompt. Add the CDN link to the sign in, sign up, password reset, and dashboard pages. So these 4 pages are going to need the Supabase features, and that's why we want to make sure that the CDN link will be available on all these 4 files: the dashboard, reset password, sign in, and the sign up pages. And after that, on the point number 3, again, do not have any configuration or authentication logic yet. We will do it later. This is the same as the previous last last prompt. We just want to make sure that the AI is not going to add too many files and it's going to make things a lot more complicated than it needs to be. And that was basically it. And there is this last line which is actually not part of the prompt. I'm going to remove it. So this is just the prompt, and when you're done with the prompting, just hit the enter key and wait until the AI is implementing the feature which is the Supabase client library into our code. So apparently there is a problem here. The AI wasn't able to modify the code on its own. And this is actually not something that happens very often, but sometimes it can happen. Instead of actually editing the code, it is just asking me to insert the code into the 4 files that I asked before. Yeah, it wasn't able to do that even though the AI seems to be trying multiple times, but that's okay because the line of the code that we need to implement is very simple anyway. So the recommendation is it is asking me to implement this code before the closing head tag in each file. So we have to add this code to the sign in, sign up, reset password, and dashboard pages. So let's do it. I'm going to click copy. So I will copy this code and we're going to visit the sign in page. I'm going to just add a new line before the closing heading tag. Let's hit enter. I'm going to right click paste, and click file, click save. Let's do it again for sign up. I will put the cursor right here, right before the closing heading tag. I'm going to press enter, right click on it, click paste, file, save. Okay, now let's do it for reset password. Let's do it again, enter, right click, paste, file, and then save. And lastly on the dashboard page. So let's do it here and then paste, click file, and click save. So I'm going to click accept all anyway, even though there is no changes made by the AI, but that's okay. Let's click accept all. And after this, we are going to start implementing the authentication logic into our project. And I'm going to send yet another prompt. This is the prompt that I will copy and just paste right here. Okay, the point number 1 is let's start implementing the authentication logic. Create authentication.js file to handle the feature. This is actually a good practice. You want to create a separated JavaScript file that will only handle the authentication feature, and it will actually something that will make the code look cleaner and the AI might generate a much better code with less problems. So that's why we want to create a separate authentication file. Some people might be okay creating one single JavaScript file that can handle almost everything, but I think for best practices, it's just better to create a dedicated JavaScript file to handle a specific feature. And on the point number 3, provide a .env file to store the project URL and public anon key, which I will manually add later. Alright, so the .env file is really just a simple file that often used in software development where the developer can store some sensitive information like the API key, some database URL, and stuff that are not meant to be seen by the public, and all of that will be stored inside of the .env file. It is really just a regular normal file, but think of it like a password manager for software, and we don't have to worry about that because AI will create it for us. And after that, later we are going to create a project in Supabase, and we are going to just copy and then paste the project URL and also the public anon key into the .env file. So we are going to do that later, but for now, let's run this prompt and let's see. Okay, so it just created .env file. This is the file. It's a very simple file, and also there is a new folder that stores the authentication.js. So it is actually a folder that was created by AI. I actually expecting it to create the authentication.js file in the root folder, but instead it's creating a new folder. But that's okay, it's still working just fine. And this is the authentication file that will handle the logic for user registration, login, sign up, and also the password reset. So I'm going to click accept all, and now we are going to create a project in Supabase, and we are going to connect the project to this code. Now let's minimize Windsurf, and you want to visit supabase.com, and you want to create an account for this platform. I actually have created an account, so I'm going to visit dashboard. Okay, now I'm on my Supabase project list, and I'm going to create a new project for my duck photo website. Let's click new project, click the organization that you want to associate with the project. In this case, I only have one organization, so I'm going to select it. And now I'm going to call this project name Duck Photo. And also I'm going to generate some password. This is a database password. We are actually not going to use this database password. This is for something else that we are not going to talk about. I'm going to just click copy and I will store it on my desktop for now. Don't worry, this is actually not the best way to store password, but this is just an example. Database password, hit enter, and I'm going to paste the password right here. Click save, and I'm going to close it. Anyway, for the region, you can select the location that is close to your users. If you are living in USA and your users are coming from Europe, then you might want to select one of these European countries, because the closer the server to your visitor, the faster the performance is going to be. So it's just a good practice to select the region where your visitors are coming from. In this case, I'm not going to change any of the setting, and I'm going to just click create new project and let Supabase creating this new project. Okay, now it is setting up the project and we are going to wait until it finishes. And after that, after the project has been set up in Supabase, we are going to copy the public URL and also the anon public API key into the .env file that was created before. But before we get into that, there is something that we need to set up first on Supabase. So if you hover your cursor on the left side of the screen, you will see this list of menu, and there are few things that we need to set up before we can implement the authentication feature. So on this menu, you want to visit the authentication page, and here you want to navigate to providers, and after that, make sure that email is enabled. There are actually some other settings, but we don't have to worry too much about that. We just want to make sure that the email option is enabled. Now that we know that the email options is available, we can move on to the next step. We're going to check the email templates. This is actually the email that the user will see once they sign up with their email. You can change the style, you can change the template, but I think for now it is better to just not touch anything. So I'm just using the default email configuration. And after that, we are going to configure the URL. Click URL configuration. The site URL has not yet been set up, so we want to change this localhost 3000 with our actual local website URL. Remember, this is something that you will need to change if you want to deploy the website to the internet. So for me, the website URL is this URL. This is actually the address of my website in my computer. This is not available on the internet, but this is very useful for testing later. So you want to insert the URL of your test website locally and then paste the URL right here and click save, because we are going to do some testing right in the computer locally. Now that we are done with the site URL, let's go back to the home menu. Click here and we want to scroll down a little bit until you see this section. There is a project URL and there is also the API key for a non-public. So we are going to copy these two information into our .env file. Let's start with the project URL. I'm going to click the copy button. Now let's go back to Windsurf, click .env file, and I'm going to just replace this info with the new info that I just copied from Supabase. Click paste and I'm going to click file, click save. Now let's go back to Google Chrome. The API key is here. Click copy and open Windsurf, delete this value, right click, paste and click file and then click save. So we just inserted the two most important information to integrate our project with the Supabase authentication. Now that we are done with these two pieces of information, we are going to link everything. We're going to link the authentication logic with the relevant pages. So this is the prompt that I will use. I'm going to right click and click paste. Okay, number one is I already inserted the project URL and public anon key in the .env file. We just done that. This is the file that we just modified. And also on the point number two, link the sign in, sign up, reset password and dashboard pages with the authentication logic. Okay, and on the point number three, make sure the user experience is flowing and seamless. So I just want to make sure that when the user is signing in, they will see the email confirmation, and also when they log in, they will see the dashboard right away. But But let's see how it's going to play out. I'm going to hit the enter key and we're going to see the AI is modifying the code, and hopefully later we can start testing the feature. Alright, now it has created all the required files and also modified all the codes that are relevant to the authentication feature. I'm going to click the accept all button, and now we can actually start testing the user registration and the user login features. So I'm going to right click on the sign up page. I'm going to open with Windsurf and I will create an account and I will see whether or not I can actually see the duck picture. But before we get into that, let's fix some problems or some bugs that may appear on this page in particular, because if there is a problem, then the sign up feature might not be working properly. So I'm going to right click and click inspect, and I want to navigate to the console option. So this is where we can see all the error messages of this website. So right now there is plenty of error message, but I think it's because I actually have two pages open. So I'm going to close it and I'm going to open this time around. There is less problem. So there are two problems right now. So we are going to tackle these two problems one by one, and after that we can start creating an account and then testing the feature. For now, I'm going to just copy this error message, right click copy, and let's go back to Windsurf, and I'm going to just paste the error message into the AI code editor, and it will actually start fixing the problem. So the AI just changes a few lines of code, and one of them is this line. It is just changing the URL from this server to this server, which I guess it is fine as long as it is working. So I will click the accept button and I will go back to the testing, and hopefully there will be no problem. As you can see here on the console page, there is no error message. If I refresh the page, still there is no error message. So far this website is working just fine. Now I'll start creating an account and I'm going to test this feature. The full name is, let's say, Chris AI. The email address, I think I'm going to be using a temporary email address. This is the website that is very useful to just get some disposable emails, and I think this is very relevant to just test the feature. Okay, now let's click copy to clipboard. Let's go back to the test. I'm going to just paste the email, create password, and let's create account. Oh wow, it looks really good. This is just some extension. It's asking me to say the password. I'm going to click save, and we should be able to receive an email. Okay, that is a confirm your sign up. So far so good. And I'm going to confirm the registration, and there you go. So right now we should be able to log in with the password that we just created. Oh, okay, there was a problem here. The sign up and the login page are actually not linked. So if I click any of these buttons, they are not actually linked to the appropriate pages. So that's something that I need to fix. Let's go back to the Windsurf code editor. I will ask the AI to fix the sign in and sign up buttons on the header, because right now they are not linking to the appropriate pages. Okay, now it has fixed the code. I will click accept all. Now let's go back. I'm going to click sign in, and yeah, this is the email that I just used. So I'm going to sign in and hopefully we can access the dashboard, and there you go. Now we have this dashboard, and also the AI has added the logout feature, so we can click on the button and it will log our account. I would say so far the feature is working well, and we actually have been able to create an account using email and password, confirm the registration, and then we can log in with the email and password that we just created before, and we can access this dashboard that is not visible to a visitor without account. So far the feature is working well, although maybe there are some problems and some policing that we can do, but for now the goal has been accomplished. So it wasn't that difficult, right? And by the way, if you actually go back to Supabase, you can see the list of accounts. You can go to authentication and you will see this email. So the display name, which is the name that I use, Chris AI, and then there's also the email, which is the email that I just used to create the account. So yeah, all the information will be available here, and we can actually control the user account. We can even remove them if we want to. And I think that concludes this tutorial. And if you want to deploy this website, you need to change the URL again. It's very important. If you don't change this, then the feature might not be working anymore. So just remember, every time that you want to deploy the website to the internet, there will be something that you need to change on the Supabase dashboard. So anyway, anyway, that's basically it. I highly recommend to just keep doing the test, always check the console error and try to fix as many problems as possible before you're deploying this website or the application to the internet. And in case you want to deploy something to the internet so anybody can visit your creation, then I highly recommend to check out the tutorial videos on how you can insert your project to GitHub and then deploy it to the internet. You can check it out right here. And in any case, I hope you find this tutorial video to be helpful. And if you want to see more tutorial videos on how to create website or apps with just prompting, then feel free to subscribe to this channel, and I'm hoping to see you in the next video. In any case, I wish you a great day ahead and take care.